It's a time in our service where we collect an offering. To those attending MCC Boston through any of our YouTube channel, you too can participate by going to our website at mccboston.org and clicking on the donate button there for that purpose. Thank you for being a part of our church family. Members and friends of MCC Boston, this evening we're beginning the second week of our Stewardship Drive with its theme based on Matthew 6:21, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." As mentioned last week, MCC Boston holds a stewardship campaign each year to remind our members and friends of the resources necessary to keep a viable MCC presence here in Boston. These resources include all three biblical mandates of talent, time, and financial support. Through the sharing of these resources, our members and friends collectively enable the ministry of MCC Boston to continue. Part of a stewardship campaign is to encourage all of our members and friends to submit a pledge card for the financial portion of their support to this community. When you fill out a pledge card with your financial pledge of support, you're letting the church know ahead of time what resources will be available to meet our yearly expenses. By having this information, the leadership of MCC Boston will be able to plan our ministry. This evening, we're introducing our stewardship poster, which will be used going forward to detail our progress in meeting our goal. Given social distancing, it might be a little hard to see, but the poster depicts a staircase set among critically expense areas that are necessary to have an MCC presence here in Boston. In round numbers, the first $7,000 of pledges cover the use of the sanctuary. The next $4,000 is needed to compensate the preachers. And the remaining budget covers our music ministry and our outreach. Each week we'll be attaching small treasure chests containing a heart as a visual representation of our theme, "Where our treasure is, there our heart is also." These markers will be placed on the poster up to the level achieved for that week. Our theme, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also," is from Matthew chapter 6. In the verse that follows, Matthew tells us, "The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness." Here Matthew is using eyes as a symbol for life's purpose. If your eyes are unhealthy and your whole body is full of darkness, you're too focused on self-preservation, storing up treasures on earth, where Matthew tells us earlier in the chapter, moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But if your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. Then, as your eyes are the lamp of the body, your life's purpose and work will lift up others, and you'll be storing up treasures in heaven. Matthew clarifies this in the next verse where he writes, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." Through your support of MCC Boston, you are indeed storing up treasures in heaven, and your eyes will be witnessing to the unconditional love of God. If you're here this evening, you're already a beloved member of the MCC Boston family. Through your support of our stewardship drive, you too will be a witness to the verse, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." This evening and during the duration of the stewardship drive, you'll find a pledge card conveniently located in your bulletin. Might I ask that you take that pledge card home and pray over it and to what amount you can contribute to help support our MCC Boston Church. When completed, you can add it with your pledge card to the basket, letting MCC Boston know that we can count on you. Thank you in advance for your participation.
Today's scripture reading is from Exodus 14. Eternal One spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them to go back and set up camp in front of Pi-Peros, between Migdol and the sea, opposite Baal-Zephon. Camp there next to the sea. Pharaoh will talk about the Israelites, saying, 'They are wandering around in circles. The desert has closed them in on all sides.' Then I will harden Pharaoh's stubborn heart even more, and he will pursue the Israelites. Honor will come to me through the actions of Pharaoh and his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Eternal One." And so they did exactly as the Eternal instructed. When Egypt's king received the news that the Israelites had run away, The attitude of Pharaoh and his servants changed. They began talking amongst themselves. Pharaoh's servants, what have we done? We have released the Israelites from serving us and lost our labor force. Pharaoh prepared his chariot and carried out his army. He took a select group of the 600 best chariots in the land, plus all the other chariots in Egypt, with drivers commanding all of them. The Eternal hardened the stubborn hearts of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he chased after the Israelites just as they were marching out of the land, with victorious hands held high. The Egyptians pursued the Israelites. All of Pharaoh's horses and chariots, his chariot drivers, and army caught up with the Israelites as they were camping by the sea not far from Pi Hahiroth, opposite Baal-zephon. Pharaoh approached the Israelites' camp, and the Israelites saw the Egyptian army closing in on them. The Israelites were trapped and feared for their lives, so they cried out to the Eternal, crying out, "Were there not enough graves in Egypt? Is that why you brought us out here to die in the desert? Why have you done this to us? Why have you made us leave Egypt? Didn't we tell you in Egypt, stop pestering us so that we can get on with our lives and serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to live as slaves to the Egyptians than to die out here in the desert." But Moses admonished them, saying, "Don't be afraid. Stand your ground and witness how the Eternal will rescue you today. Take a good look at the Egyptians, for after today you will never see them again. The Eternal will fight on your behalf while you watch in silence." Eternal One then asked Moses, "Why do you call for me? Instruct the Israelites to break camp and keep moving. Raise your staff and reach out over the sea to divide it. The Israelites will be able to walk straight through the sea on dry ground. I am going to harden the stubborn hearts of the Egyptians, and in their arrogance they will continue to chase the Israelites. My honor will be on display when I defeat Pharaoh, his army, his chariots, and his chariot drivers. The Egyptians will know that I am the Eternal when I display my glory through Pharaoh, chariots, and his chariot drivers." God's messenger, who had been out front leading the people of Israel, moved to protect the rear of the company. The cloud pillar moved with him from the front to the back of them. The cloud pillar took its position between Egypt and Israel's camps. The cloud cast darkness by day, yet it lit up the sky by night. As a result, the Egyptians never got close to the Israelites the entire night. Moses then took his staff and reached out over the sea. The Eternal parted the sea with a strong east wind, which he blew all night, and turned the floor of the sea into dry ground between the divided waters. The Israelites broke camp and traveled on dry ground through the parted waters. The sea stood like a solid wall on their right and on their left. The Egyptians were undaunted. They continued their pursuit. All of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and chariot drivers followed the Israelites into the middle of the sea. Before daybreak, the Eternal peered down upon the Egyptian army through the fire pillar and the cloud pillar and threw them all into confusion. He caused the wheels of their chariots to break down so that it was nearly impossible for the drivers to control them. The Egyptians knew something was wrong. "Let's go and get away from these Israelites. Their God, the Eternal One, is fighting for them against us." After all the Israelites had reached the other side of the sea, the Eternal spoke to Moses, "Now take your staff and reach out over the sea. The waters which I parted will crash upon the Egyptians and cover their chariots and chariot drivers." So Moses raised his hand and reached out over the sea, and the walls of water collapsed. As dawn gave way to morning, the sea returned to normal, and the Eternal swept the retreating Egyptian army into the sea. The waters rushed and covered all of the chariots and their drivers, swallowing up all of Pharaoh's army that had pursued Israel into the sea. Not one Egyptian survived. But the Israelites had walked safely through the parted waters on dry ground, and the sea stood like a solid wall on their right and on their left. That day, the Eternal rescued Israel from the powerful grip of the Egyptians, and Israel watched the corpse of the Egyptians wash up on the shore. When Israel witnessed the incredible power that the Eternal used to defeat the Egyptians, the people were struck with fear of him, and they trusted in him and also in Moses, his servant.